Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Command Zone podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Weeks, and today we have a special guest upgrader. It's Murph.
Hello. I don't know if I'm that special of a guest.
Yeah.
We've done a few of these now, so.
Yeah, but it's special to me.
Oh, thanks. I think it's pretty special too.
And we brought you in for a specific reason.
Because you thought a pun was very funny is the reason.
Because we're upgrading the Merfolk deck.
Get it, Murph? Merfolk?
It's the Merfolk upgrade, guys.
All right, now I'm excited.
We are upgrading the Simic Merfolk Precon from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. This is green. It's blue. It is full of Merfolk. It is full of exploring, which you will find out once we get into the commanders. Today, we are going to talk about what is in this box when you buy it off the shelf, mechanically, financially, and we are going to give you 10 cards to add to it to get it in peak fighting shape for your next game night. And of course, the 10 cards you take out to make room for those upgrades. But before we get into any of that, we're going to talk about a lot of Magic cards today. You can pick up any of the ones that we mentioned and this sealed Precon over at cardkingdom.com/command. I am so in love with all of the Precons from this set. I think they're really well built, they're really well priced, and they have some really sweet cards in them. And you can pick those up over at Card Kingdom. They have a great selection to pick up all the cards you're looking for. We're Magic players, we're picky about what printing and what condition they're in. And at Card Kingdom, you have a huge selection to choose from. And when you buy them, they're going to be in one tidy package that's going to be delivered to you safe on your doorstep. So you're not going to question the condition the cards are going to be in when they arrive on your doorstep. What
Very
they're going to be.
I want my stuff to be near mint and stay that way.
That's why I paid for it that way. Please ship it considerately. Considerately.
Considerately. Yeah.
Oh my
brain
goodness.
Got there like at the exact same moment yours did.
Again, cardkingdom.com/command.
And if you go to ultrapro.com/command, you can get all sorts of awesome Ultra Pro products, any sort of accessories that you need for all of your gaming needs, sleeves, playmats, deck boxes, and this specific set, Lost Caverns of Ixalan, has so much cool art in it.
Really does,
that
yeah.
I really, really love. That I'm super excited to get a playmat of maybe one of these Merfolk or something like that in there. So, yeah.
Playing a Murph deck?
Playing a Murph deck. Gotta have the Merfolk. I'll sign my own playmat.
Can we put your face over it? Like, just get a little...
We definitely can,
Just do a little Murph
Let's
over
talk
the
to
Merfolk.
ULTRAPRO and see if we can get that made.
Special edition Murph
edition, yeah. We can do that at, like, maybe the next...
Okay, we'll talk to them.
MagicCon or something like that. Who knows? We'll see. Anyway, ultrapro.com/command.
The final way to support us is directly over at patreon.com/commandzone. Our patrons are the lifeblood of this show. You make the podcast possible, game nights, extra turns, plus there's some sweet perks for being one. You get access to game nights and extra turns a day early and without ads. That means there's no spoilers. You're not seeing anybody ruining stuff for you in the comments, and you get to be a part of the last line of defense against little mistakes in the game. Our patrons are a huge help in finding stuff before the final episode goes out.
Yeah.
So,
fun fact, Rachel.
Yeah.
You know, in this last Game Nights episode, the Doctor Who episode that we had, there was actually a whole like minute-long chunk that we had to take out because we got a card ruling wrong.
Yep.
It made that its way into the Patreon version, but then some patrons were like, hey, the card doesn't work like that. They caught it.
It didn't affect the game, but it did affect how the card worked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was near the end of the game. It didn't really matter. So we just took that minute-long chunk, took it out. And if you go to patreon.com/commandzone and become a Patreon,
you can see the mistake.
You can compare them side by side and see what mistake we made.
Yeah, that's like a fun incentive. Plus, every single podcast episode, we shout out one lucky patron. And this episode is dedicated to Randall Flood. Randall.
You rock.
You do rock. And this is the perfect episode to be brought to you by Randall.
because of the flood.
Yeah, because his last name's Flood.
Yeah, but it's not spelled like flood like Mario's backpack from like Mario Sunshine, where he sprays water all over the place.
I don't.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I was here for the Merfolk joke.
Anyway, Randall.
Thanks, Randall.
You rock. Thanks so much.
Rock. All right, let's get into the main topic of this episode. We're talking about the Explorers of the Deep Precon. It's green. It's blue. It's full of fish.
Yep. That's basically it.
We're going to get to know this deck before we get into the upgrades. We know that we're making the changes that need to be made to make this deck better. And the first thing we need to know is who the commanders are. Let's meet the face commander.
So first up, this is the face one. We got Hakbal of the Surging Soul. 2 a green and a blue, legendary creature Merfolk. It's a 3/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each Merfolk creature you control explores. That's reveal the top card of your library. You can put that into your hand if it's a land. Otherwise, you put a 1/1 counter on the exploring creature, and then you can choose to leave it there or put the card into your graveyard. So
it's sort of exploring. Like Surveil Plus.
Yeah. And then it also has, whenever it attacks, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield, but if you don't, draw a card.
Pretty good.
That's a lot of text.
That's the Simic commander for you.
Simic commander, but it's very clearly focusing on Merfolk and exploring. Right. So if this is the commander that we're building around / the deck is built around, then that's what we want to be doing, right? Play Merfolk, explore as much as possible.
Absolutely. So that seems to be a very Merfolk focused commander. The backup is not as Merfolk focused, and I know I'm going to say this wrong, so sorry. It's Xolatoyac, the Smiling Flood.
Oh boy. He's smiling.
He's smiling. He's such so a little cute. Cutie.
I would say he's a little guy, but he's not a little guy.
He's not a little guy. He's specifically a big guy. He's a salamander serpent for 4 green and a blue, 6 altogether for a 6/6. When Xolatoyac enters the battlefield or attacks, put a flood counter on target land. But not the flood counters you remember. That land is an island in addition to its other types for as long as it has a flood counter on it. And at the beginning of your end step, untap each permanent you control with a counter on it. So the flood counters of the past usually turn whatever it's flooding into an island entirely.
It would override it completely. It's no longer a mountain, it's just an island, it only taps for blue. Whereas this, they seem to have changed it a little bit, and I'm glad they're doing this with templating it a little bit because they're like, hey, it's in addition to its other types. So that way you can get some cool island walk shenanigans or whatever else you might dream up. Yeah. But you're not mana screwing your opponents.
Yes. So that is what's going on here. So clearly we're doing counters stuff, which makes sense with Explore. Mm-hmm. And it also gives you a way to put counters on your lands. So you can untap your lands at the beginning of the end step, which is a ton of fun. But not necessarily dedicated to either exploring or Merfolk. So these appear to go in slightly different directions.
Yeah, the synergy is quite clear, right? It makes things an island, and Merfolk oftentimes do care about island walk again. But I don't know, it itself is not a Merfolk, and it cares about untapping things, which Merfolk sometimes do, but not always.
Yeah, a lot of times Merfolk have tap synergies, like if you have Kamena or something in the command zone, but it's not quite as reliable as it's on every Merfolk.
Definitely a cool card though.
Really, really neat. And this has been the case for a lot of these precons where the face commander is very clearly a dedicated creature type commander. Yeah. This is a dedicated dinosaur commander, a dedicated vampire commander. This is a dedicated Merfolk commander. And then they give you a backup one that is synergistic mechanically, but isn't necessarily a specifically creature type deck.
I like your notes here that in all bold say, look at his face.
Look at his little face. He's got a squishy little smile.
He's so cute.
I really do like him. I like that he's Koma's cute little brother.
if this is what Koma looks like, I don't care how broken Koma is, I would slam that in every single deck I possibly could. Yeah.
Like both of these commanders, we're going to get to know the deck a little bit more so we can decide who goes in the command zone. If there's more counter synergies, if there's more Merfolk synergies, it means it's time to break down the
stats. All right.
Very good.
Stats-wise, we've got about 13 pieces of ramp. Okay. All right. Pretty good.
I like 13, especially for a deck that has a pretty low curve and gives you a reliable way to draw your lands.
Yep. It's pretty much perfect. We like that a lot. We got 16 draw.
Wow. That's a lot.
Quite high. But again, a little bit too much draw is always better than not enough draw.
Absolutely.
I will always take more than less when it comes to draw.
Hakbal gives you card advantage and ramp, are both options. Xolatoyac gives you sort of ramp, but it's more untapped stuff.
Yep.
So it looks like we're getting more of that value from in the command zone from a Hakbal, but 16's plenty for either.
Nice. We've got 10 pieces of interaction.
Yeah.
And that's about right.
Yeah, and a lot of this is
low.
on Merfolk, which
Yeah.
have sort of like sleep abilities or bounce abilities, so it's not necessarily permanent removal.
Yeah.
It's more tempo-based removal, which is how Merfolk often work. So I think 10 might be a little bit low just based on the interaction we do have in the deck, but the deck is fairly aggressive, so maybe you don't want to spend all your time interacting. Maybe you're just bonking.
Yeah. And you put down here 1.5 board wipes in the deck.
So
what is the half?
there is one that just doesn't answer the entire board. It's an Aetherize, but it does answer like a huge amount of problems.
Yeah, so it's a very specific type of thing. It will make you not die, ideally.
Yeah,
if
and
you're getting attacked. But
it's like sort of in the board wipe slot, but it doesn't exactly do what board wipes want to do all the time.
yeah. And I think that it's kind of understandable why you don't want a ton of board wipes because you are quite permanent based. You want to have your board, and if you don't have a board, then you're kind of getting screwed. That being said, there will be plenty of times when you just need to have a board wipe.
Yeah.
And there's really only one kind of two in the deck, and so it's a little bit on the low side.
Yeah, I would agree. I would probably want to for this, especially bounce wipes. Merfolk's curve is very low, so if you bounce the whole board, you can deploy your hand a lot faster than your opponents can and try and get reset up for big attacks. So having another bounce wipe probably helpful here.
And then overall, we've got 36 lands. 16 of those are basics.
Okay.
I think that's fine.
20 non-basic lands is plenty.
Yep.
My concern when I built a Merfolk deck is that the deck is very blue. Obviously, Merfolk are specifically extremely blue dedicated.
Yes.
But you do have these green spells and you do need access to green mana, especially if you're going to cast Hakbal. So you don't want to lean on basics really heavily because you want a ton of blue sources, but also do need that green. Duels actually go a really, really long way in making sure that you have it.
Yeah. But that being said, it is a 2-color deck, so you shouldn't be... Yeah, you'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
So that's the stats of...
Those are the general stats
overall.
that just like any deck needs these things to work. And overall, it looks fairly healthy. A little bit low on interaction, especially when we don't have interaction in the command zone, and board wipes, of course.
Yeah, we've been doing these for a long time, and almost every time it's like, yeah, these are reasonable numbers.
Yeah.
They've gotten to reasonable numbers with these, which I'm glad to see. Now,
This second chunk of stats helps us break down the deck and get to know this deck specifically.
Yes.
So we understand what exactly it's designed to do. Starting with the first most important number.
how many Merfolk are in here, Rachel?
34 Merfolk, so many.
That's actually great. I love that a lot because one thing that can be an issue with these commander decks is they can pull a couple of different directions, or they can have a scenario where there's a theme, but the theme is not pushed far enough. And so whenever you have your synergy pieces in there, you're like, oh, but I want more of this one thing, like say you're an enchantment deck, but doesn't have quite enough enchantments to fulfill that criteria, then it can feel a little bit not great. However, given that you have 34 Merfolk in the deck, you're almost always going to have Merfolk to play, and the deck will just feel very Merfolk-centric.
Definitely.
Which I like a lot.
And I like that number, the 34 Merfolk, especially when combined with this next number, which is the cards that care about Merfolk specifically. There are 18 Merfolk Matters cards in this deck.
Yeah. Oh,
so
perfect.
18 cards that care about you having Merfolk, which means you need to have access to Merfolk or your deck is not doing the thing.
Yeah, like this is great because the deck is very, very synergistic.
Yeah.
Skipping ahead to a little bit of how it plays, but overall, this deck plays great.
Yeah, I looked at the list and was like, I'm not going to make a ton of changes to this overall. Like, it just works and has a lot of the pieces that we've come to expect and like in Merfolk decks.
Yeah, like straight up, if you take this deck and play it out of the box, you will be happy and have a good time with it. Now, are there improvements you can make? Yes, but it's really solid out of the box.
The interesting thing about this is the box for this is Explorers of the Deep, +1/+1 counters, explore for lands and buffs. Nowhere on this does it say Merfolk deck.
That's probably because, well, maybe not, but maybe it's like a regular person at Target that's looking at Magic products.
I guess, but
isn't going to be like, what the heck is Merfolk?
I suppose, but I don't know. You figure it out. You know what Murph
Yeah.
Like,
it's not like it's exclusive to Magic.
It's such a strange, because all of the other precons do have that. So it really surprised me that this one wasn't labeled as a Merfolk deck, and maybe that's why it's just not quite as accessible. Because
but it has so much Merfolk in it.
When you look at this next number, which is just the number of cards that say explore or make map tokens, there are only 2 in the deck.
There's 2 things that explore in the entire deck.
It's not an explore deck unless you have a Hakbal in the command zone, who obviously you're going to be doing a lot of exploring.
Yeah.
But the deck isn't dedicated to exploring at all. There are 3 cards in it that say explore matters, and those don't do anything unless you have Hakbal in the command zone and on the battlefield, of course, because there's very, very few slots dedicated to actually exploring.
Yeah. But the +1/+1 counters theme, they're not lying about, because there's 17 things that care about counters.
Yeah, well, 17 things that specifically put counters on stuff.
Excuse me.
So this could be +1 counters, this could be charge counters, or anything like that.
Yeah,
this is a number check for Xolatoyac to see how dedicated we are to that.
Yeah, do we care more about the counters aspect of things, or do we care more about the Merfolk aspect of things, even though that wasn't really advertised on the box?
Right. And 17 for counters matter, or for that put counters, is a little lower than what we want for a deck that's built around counters. So we would want that number to be at least 25, probably closer to 30.
Yeah, absolutely.
Finally, it's the Merfolk WinCon way. We wanted to count the number of Anthem effects in the deck to see how big these guys are going to get.
Overall, there's 6.
Pretty good.
I'd say so.
And they get plenty big from Hakbal. So I think that you are going to have the power that you want out of this deck.
Yeah. So all that being said, who would we run as the commander? I think it's pretty obvious that Hakbal is what the deck wants, because it has the critical mass of Merfolk. There are lots of counter synergies and counter matters in the deck, and Hakbal will just be giving counters willy-nilly to all of your Merfolk. So it is at that cross-section of Merfolk and counters, and a lot of Merfolk in and of themselves also just care about counters. Like old Ixalan had Explore, some Merfolk care about that from that set. So I think it's just a much better choice and provides a heck of a lot more value.
Yeah, I think our Smiley Salamander friend is a super sweet commander, but
cute.
Is not necessarily built to be put in the command zone of this deck.
Yeah.
All right. All of that out of the way, we are going to dive into what comes in this box financially in just a few minutes, after a few words from our sponsors.
Hey everyone, we're so excited to tell you about a brand new card game that we've been playing. It is called KINFIRE Delve: Vainglory's Grotto.
Yeah, it's a tactical co-op card game where you go through a dungeon full of enemies, obstacles, and traps, all to reach the epic boss fight down below.
Each player picks a different character with unique strengths and abilities. I chose Asha, who's really good at setting up big damage combos.
Yeah, and I was Core, a protector who soaks up hits and helps take down tough challenges.
It's quick to learn, but has a ton of depth.
Every single game felt very different, and they all got pretty intense.
Yeah, in that last one, we were completely out of resources by the final boss fight, and we just barely pulled it off.
Yeah, it was super close. You really have to think strategically and plan ahead, so if you're a Magic player, well, it helps.
The best part is the whole box is only $20.
Yeah, and it's a 2-player game right now, but they are releasing a 4-player version and a standalone expansion next year. It's perfect for a Commander pod.
You know, just talking about it makes me want to play again. You want to go?
Yeah, I totally do.
Order KINFIRE Delve: Vainglory's Grotto right now at KINFIREDelve.com and use code COMMAND10 at checkout for 10% off.
Again, that's KINFIREDelve.com with code COMMAND10, or find it at your local game store starting November 21st.
KINFIRE Delve: Vainglory's Grotto.
It's a whole lot of game for just $20.
Fire burn and cauldron bubble, a little pinch of salt, and... Ugh, oh, God, that's horrible. I'm Agatha, and this vile cauldron was supposed to be chicken noodle soup, but it ended up poison. Again, thank goodness I have Factor, the service that delivers delicious chef-crafted meals that are ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Look, I'm a little more suited to the coven than the oven, but Factor lets me dine like an evil queen. Each week, I can choose from over 34 different brews featuring options like Calorie Smart and Protein Plus to let me activate my wellness goal abilities. My sisters and I particularly love the Italian herb chicken. Whenever we order it, the whole team gets pumped. So spare yourselves the toil and trouble and sign up for Factor on the double-double.
Head to factormeals.com/command50 and use code command50 to get 50% off. That's code command50 at factormeals.com/command50 to get 50% off.
Yeah, it's me, Cranko. You Magic players are always going,
"Oh, Cranko, make me a bunch of goblins."
well, that's easy for you to say, but guess what? Those goblin tokens don't come out of nowhere. I used to spend hours looking through job websites to hire new gobos, but not no more. Now I've got Indeed, where you can attract, interview, and hire in the same place. Their powerful tools let me find new recruits faster than your opponents can say, "Okay, I scooped." Indeed's hiring platform does the hard work for you, matching you with quality candidates instantaneously. That means quick, numbskulls. Plus, with Indeed, I ain't gotta pay for resumes unless they're up to snuff. And I got high requirements, like being a goblin. So go ahead and tap me again, you goon. I got employees for days, thanks to Indeed.
Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/CommandZone. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/CommandZone. Just go to Indeed.com/CommandZone and support the show by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Indeed.com/CommandZone. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Welcome back, everybody. It is time to talk about the reprint value of the Explorers of the Deep Precon. We always give a couple of caveats before we start sharing all of these numbers. Of course, this value only takes into account the reprints in the deck. Those are the only things that we know the prices on. There are 68 reprints in this deck. 12 of the cards are new cards, and their value will not be included in this. We don't know how valuable they are yet. And then the rest are basic lands, which are not usually considered in the reprint value of these decks. This deck is currently being pre-ordered for $40, which is about what we expect for set precons. Really happy to see these back at the 40, which is where we expect them to be.
Yeah, unfortunately subject to change.
Yes.
There are some times where decks will spike, like looking at the Doctor Who decks. We're like, oh, the value of those are pretty good. And then the timey-wimey deck like shot way up.
And it blew a lot of these numbers.
Yeah, and so...
Keep in mind that the math we're doing is using $40 as a pre-order price.
Yeah. Now, that being said, the reprint value for this deck is $152.75.
It's so good.
Oh, that is good stuff.
It's so good.
Thank you, Wizards of the Coast.
All of these precons are like that. I mean, every single precon from Lost Caverns of Ixalan has the value to support just the $40 price, which is what we're used to paying for these, and we're so excited to see it.
Yeah.
To give you a little bit of context for this $152.75, first of all of this is taken before the list comes out, so of course those numbers will go down once they are announced, but this number is great to compare it with precons, the average reprint value of precons that have come out this year. So you get an idea for where the decks are at the same time, which is before the list is released. So currently... So this one's at $152.75. The All Will Be One precons at the same time averaged $101.20. March of the Machine averaged $97. Lord of the Rings averaged $126.44. Remember, the Lord of the Rings precons cost more to purchase. The Commander Masters precons averaged $152.06, but the Commander Masters precons cost double this.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
Some of them were going for like 110.
Yeah, the Sliver and Eldrazi ones were both like above like $100.
Yeah, and this is a $40 deck, and it is above the average reprint value, barely, but of the Commander Masters.
By only a few cents,
but we'll take it. But it counts, which means it was above like probably two of the other precons from Commander Masters, right? Wilds of Eldraine averaged at $112.90, and we were pretty happy with those because they were $40 decks. Doctor Who precons averaged around $110.17. Those ones are a little funky because there's so many new cards in them, but this is clearly higher reprint value than those. A little bit more context, because like we said, a lot of these, the MSRP, the pre-order price, fluctuated wildly throughout the year. Yeah. So it's really hard to tell exactly how much value you're actually getting. So what we've been doing is taking a bang for your buck value, which is taking the reprint value of the deck, the total reprint value, and dividing it by the pre-order price. So what you could pick it up for before these lists were announced. And then you find out like how much card value you're getting for each $1 American dollar that you spend. So All Will Be One was $2.53 of card value for every $1 you spend. March of the Machine was $2.42. Lord of the Rings were $2.53, so pretty good for what they cost. Commander Masters Precons were abysmal at $1.90. You're barely netting any money, any card value. Wilds of Eldraine Precons were $2.82, which was awesome. We were very excited about that. Doctor Who Precons were about $2.20. And again, the Explorers of the Deep Precon at $40 was $152.75, which makes its bang for your buck value $3.82 of cards for your $1 spend.
Wow. Yeah, given all these other things that you just listed, I feel like about $2.50 per bang for your buck.
Pretty normal.
Yeah, that would be considered good, right?
Right.
Like, we're pretty happy if it's $2.50.
Yeah, I was like, All Will Be One was solid. We were happy with Wilds of Eldraine because it was almost $3, and it's $1 more than that.
Yeah, this at $3.82 is absolutely nuts. And the crazy part about it is, even if, for whatever reason, just because of how markets work, if this gets, the price goes up and people start charging, like, say, $60 for this deck instead of $40, this deck is still quite worth it at that price point.
It's still pretty good, which is great. And if you want to calculate the bang for your buck based on whatever price you see on the shelf, you can just take that $152.75 and divide it by whatever price you can find. And then you'll get the adjusted bang for your buck value.
Are you asking Commander players to do math, Rachel?
Math is
Commander players don't do math.
Math is for sellers. Math is for retailers. So, I mean, that number in a vacuum is a really exciting number, right?
Yeah.
This high value, but it's even more exciting when you get to look at the specific cards that are reprinted in this deck. Let's talk about the notable reprints, which is all of the cards that are worth over $5 in the deck, of which there are 7.
Yeah. So the one that I'm most excited about, / the one that is needed the most, is Branching Evolution.
A huge reprint with sweet new art.
Yeah, that's the tuna green enchantment. If 1 or more +1/+1 counters will be put on a creature you control, twice that many +1/+1 counters are put on that creature instead. And that's $21. And it's just that high because I believe its only printing was in the original Jumpstart product.
It was in Jumpstart. Yeah, it's really hard to get your hands on that version. So to have it in a Precon that you can pick up for $40 and get this card immediately with it's the Green God.
Yeah.
Who's gorgeous, by the way. Very cool to have this card.
Yeah, this printing should hopefully just absolutely tank this price, which is great because Commander players like +1/+1 counters. They like counters synergies, and those cards that +1/+1 counter synergies care about, like
Doubling
season, all that. Still, print that thing into the ground. Let Commander players play with their doubling seasons and their branching evolutions. Please.
Very exciting.
Yes, love this.
I couldn't believe the price of this next reprint, if I'm honest, because it has been slowly creeping up for years, sitting at $13. Metallic Mimic. Is catching a reprint here. Yeah, isn't that wild? I mean, Commander players love creature type decks, and Metallic Mimic is just an easy, solid 2-drop in any of those decks.
Yeah, I think it's good because, one, it's colorless, and because a lot of these types of decks will want creatures that are at high mana value. Say you're making a dragon deck. Well, most of those things are going to be high mana value. So in order to fill out your curve, stuff like Metallic Mimic is really, really good lower end on that, and just it does a lot of things for the value.
Yeah, this card is sneaky great every time it hits the battlefield. It's an Anthem effect that even if you remove the Metallic Mimic, which doesn't often happen, they get to keep that buff, which is very exciting.
Because they'll just put the 1/1 counter on it.
Another great reprint for these kinds of decks and in the appropriate art, thank goodness.
Yes, Kindred Discovery. 3 blue, enters battlefield, choose a creature type. Whenever a creature you control of the chosen type enters the battlefield or attacks, you draw a card. This card, stupid powerful.
It's ridiculous, especially in decks like this one where the curve is so low.
Yeah.
Because you can cast your Merfolk, draw a card, cast another Merfolk, draw a card, attack with 2 Merfolk, draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
Plus all of your Explore triggers. You are going to have a huge grip of cards always with this deck.
Heck, this card you can slam in a Dragon's deck. and it's still nuts.
Yeah, it's
and something that's this low to the ground like Merfolk, it's just crazy.
Every time I see Kindred Discovery, I'm like, it's so expensive. And then you see it in play and you're like, my card's such an issue.
Dude, if you can stick a Kindred Discovery in play, you will have a very high chance of winning that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Smothering Tithe in that way, where it's like feels expensive when you cast it, and then you're like, oh, I think it just won me the game.
Yeah, exactly. Love to see it. It got printed a little bit more recently, but the fact that it's still $11 speaks to its power, and hopefully it'll continue to go down with this printing.
Another big sea beastie reprint is Thassa, God of the Sea. 2 and a blue for a indestructible god. As long as your devotion to blue is less than 5, she isn't a creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1, and 1 and a blue target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. She's 5/5 naturally.
Good old OG Theros gods.
It's so funny to see Thassa in this deck because she's not a Merfolk.
Yeah.
She's not really like doing, I guess the scry works with explore, but not really. You're just scrying a land at the top so you can draw it, I suppose.
Yeah, you're not making one big thing that you want to make unblockable.
Yeah.
Sure.
She's a little weird in this deck, but she's very expensive at $9.75.
Very expensive.
I mean, that's so expensive for this card.
Yeah.
And
I don't think it's been printed since the original Theros.
It was in the Secret Lair, but I can't think of any other.
Oh, yes. It did have the Secret Lair printed as well.
The Constellation
yes.
one,
Yeah.
But this card does win games. If you have a big thing, it goes in those decks and can cheese out a win in no time. So,
yeah. Honestly, I don't mind it because the rest of the deck is so tightly knit that throwing in a couple, here's a good reprint. It's flavorful.
It's good.
She's God of the Sea. That's totally fine. I like that a lot.
The next one is one of the most powerful Ixalan Merfolk, especially in a deck like this, sitting at $6.50. It's Herald of Secret Streams. You know this card? This card's awesome. Creatures you control with counters on it just can't be blocked.
Yeah. I've lost to this card so many times. Back when Magic Arena was in closed beta, I think it was just Ixalan / Rivals of Ixalan.
Yep.
They gave you 60 packs and said, go for it, build decks. And so I lost to this card so many times.
Yeah, this one's busted. I mean, it goes in every +1/+1 counter deck with blue in it and can absolutely close a game out, especially in a deck like this that is going to be exploring so many times and hopefully has the counter synergy to really bring the room together.
Yeah, assuming that Hakbal is your commander, it's such a good overlap of it's a Merfolk but also cares about +1/+1 counters. Guess what your commander does?
Both
cares
those.
about Merfolk and puts +1/+1 counters on things.
Yeah, pretty good reprint. Happy to see it here.
Love it. And then next up, we have Kumena, Tyrant of Erazka.
Yeah, this is the sort of go-to Merfolk commander currently.
Yeah, as far as blue-green goes, I think,
Kumena is a 3-mana Merfolk Shaman, green and blue, so it could be the commander of this deck if you'd like to play the Kumena deck. But it has 3 activated abilities. Tap another untapped Merfolk you control. Kumena can't be blocked this turn. Tap 3 untapped Merfolk you control. Draw a card. Tap 5 untapped Merfolk you control. Put a counter on each Merfolk you control.
Yeah.
A little bit of counters, a lot of card draw, a lot of Merfolk.
Yeah, very powerful card. Just does tons of work as long as you can get a lot of Merfolk out, which this deck seems to have no problem with.
Yep.
If you wanted to, you could run this as your commander.
Absolutely.
And it'll be fine.
Put it in the command zone. I mean, what Kumena usually likes a little bit more untapped stuff than this deck has, but because you have so many Merfolk and you care about counters, this is a perfectly acceptable commander as well. Although I'm always excited to play with the new toys.
Same, honestly. I think Tishana's in here as well.
There's a couple
you can technically run them, but new toys are always fun, and Hakbal's ability is
There's a ton of Merfolk you could put in here. There's 2 Prime Speakers.
Prime Speaker.
You could put Voral in the command zone. There's a lot of green, blue Merfolk legends.
Let's just put them all in the command zone. Can we put them all in the command zone?
They all have partner with other Merfolk. Yeah,
that's a thing, right?
There's plenty of fish in the sea is their keyword.
It's like batching, but it's just plenty of fish in the sea. Yeah.
The final reprint over $5 is Rapid Hybridization, a great removal spell. We've gotten a lot of Pongifies. Happy to see Rapid Hybridization get the reprint sitting at $5.
$5 for an uncommon?
I know.
I remember when Pongify
card.
was the expensive one and Rapid Hybridization was the cheap one.
It's
how the
and so it
turntables-
goes.
Yeah.
And so it goes. Murph.
Every time I'm just like, man, this thing is expensive. Well, hasn't gotten reprinted in a while. Yep, that checks out. That makes sense. And then the reprint brings it down and then it'll slowly creep back up.
You just got to pay attention. Make sure you have a bunch of the cards that you're looking for when they're low. Okay, so we've talked about the most expensive cards in the deck, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're the best cards in the deck. So we want to take a moment to talk about the cards that when you draw them, you're like, oh, we're popping off now.
Yeah, so we already talked a little bit about Kindred Discovery, and that is definitely one of the best. But one of the ones that I really like from this is Nikanzel Current Conductor. It's a green and a blue for a 2/3. Whenever a creature you control explores a land card, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. Whenever a creature you control explores a non-land card, put a +1/+1 counter on Nikanzel. If you have just a few Merfolk out, this thing gets nuts.
It's
like the amount of ramp that it provides.
Wild.
And this thing will be a huge threat if left unchecked for more than like a turn or two.
Yeah,
it is 2 mana.
Even if you play Nikanzel into Hakbal, like even if you just have those two, and you explore twice, and you're like, all right, I've been the first one. You put like 2 counters on this one, and then you find a land,
and then you
draw
can just put a land into play.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you've ramped. Now you have a reasonably large threat. Like it's a 2/3.
Yeah.
And if you make it even just a little bit bigger, oh boy, are people not going to be able to attack you very easily.
We are cooking now. I really like this card in the deck. It does make this deck is going to take a lot of game actions.
Yes.
It is a lot of decisions. Every single Merfolk you have is another decision at the beginning of your upkeep.
Yeah,
so you're going to have to be like, this Merfolk explores it. Top counter. This Merfolk explores, I guess, top counter. But if you hit lands, then you're like, I draw this, and I look at this one, graveyard, top. Every single one of those. It's like having a Sensei's Divining Top, but Merfolk.
Yeah, it's like on your combats, you're going to be like, well, I'm going to sit here for 5 minutes and make some decisions.
Yep.
Sorry, everybody.
Nikanzel says, like, if you find a land, also you put it into play. Also, you have to manage dice. There's a lot to keep track of in this deck. The second best card in this deck is one of the Merfolk I'm most excited about. It is Mist Dancer.
Ooh.
It's a 5-mana 3/3 flying. It says other Merfolk you control get +1/+0 and have flying. And then it says Encore 5 blue. So you can, if this card is in your graveyard, you can pay 7. You get 3 copies of Mist Dancer. They all have to attack different players, and they're going to buff all of your Merfolk +3/+0 and give them flying. Plus themselves, they'll be 6/3 threats with haste.
And I love this in this deck because giving Merfolk evasion is really, really important. You just need to be able to punch through damage because a lot of times your Merfolk are just going to be like, I have a few 2, 3, 4 power things.
Right.
I have like 4 or 5 of those. And that's fine. But if they're just sitting there, they're not really doing much for you. So just being able to say, oh, I'll give them flying, give them a little bit of a buff, boom, now I'm swinging in for 15, 20 damage, depending on how big your board is. And it can also get bins to the Explore.
Yep.
It can go in the graveyard.
That's true.
And then you can just encore it back whenever you need it, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think this card is super neat. It's also like I know people will say, Merfolk have Island Walk. Why do you need it? It's like Island Walk requires extra steps. If they don't have an island, you have to give them an island. If they do have an island, great, but then you're going to swing out at one player and you're not going to have the evasion to take down the other 2. So this just says flying. It is immediately gives everything a threat without having to do any other steps.
Yeah, trust me. If you have this in your hand or like you top deck it, or again, even if you throw it into the graveyard and you even have a few Merfolk in play, you will always be happy to see this card.
Yeah. Super sweet.
I love it.
Okay, so we've met the deck. We know the best cards in the deck, the most expensive cards in the deck. We know the commander. We know we've got Hakbal in the command zone. What were your goals when upgrading this deck? We're going to add 10 cards to it to really tie the room together, make sure that the synergy is as tight as possible, and try and shore up some of the weaknesses.
Yeah, so it already has a lot of Merfolk. So usually whenever we would have something that's like on this theme, you want to be like, oh, I want to push that theme even more. And to an extent you do, but At the same time, we have plenty of that. Like 34 Merfolk, that's fine. It's got plenty of enablers. That part is A-okay. The issues I find that I run into when piloting the deck out of the box is closing. It's not super great at closing out. It's good at doing, like you said, a lot of game actions and getting scary, but then you have a lot of 4/4s.
Yeah.
And you can't really do much with a lot of 4/4s. So having some way to like push through damage, this deck doesn't have a ton of good ways to do so, even though we highlighted just one of them. There's only a couple in the deck. Also, you have a lot of lands that is going to be going into your hand from the Explore ability.
Yep.
What do you do with those?
Got to get them out of there somehow.
The deck...
Got to do something.
The deck out of the box doesn't really have much to do with them, which is kind of okay, because if you get a land in your hand, then that at the very least means you're not missing your land drops, and hitting your land drops in Commander is very, very important. But at the same time, I kind of wish that we could do something a little bit more, accelerate our plan a little bit more as well. But yeah, those are the
lands to work.
Biggest issues, as well as I think interaction.
Right.
Interaction is it's pretty low on interaction, especially instant speed stuff.
Yeah, for being a blue deck, the deck isn't super tricksy.
Yeah, it has very few tricks.
Yeah.
It's only got a couple things, really.
There's a couple more.
It's like the Aetherize, the Rapid Hybridization, but...
Yeah, a lot of what the deck actually does is it's just cast Merfolk and pass, which is cool, but you definitely need to use blue to its most, its most powerful.
And to that point, the last thing that this deck really needs is a way to deal with board wipes. Because if you just get board wiped, well, sucks to be you.
Yeah. You got a lot of lands in hand.
Yeah, you have a lot of lands in hand. Granted, there is a decent amount of card draw in here, but you got to figure out a plan against board wipes, because board wipes are just a thing that exists in Commander, and you need to figure out how to not be caught off guard and to have a plan for that.
Yeah.
And again, the deck doesn't really have a ton straight out of the box.
Yep. I definitely, having played a Merfolk deck, you have to commit a lot to the board to make a commanding board state.
Yeah.
Making sure that you can keep that commanding board state in time to use it is a huge, huge deal when piloting any Merfolk deck.
Yeah.
Especially one with counters. You're going to spend a lot of time building up this board. Keep it safe.
Yeah, because most Merfolk in and of themselves are not super powerful creatures.
Right.
Sorry, Prof. But the board as a whole, in its entirety, like building it all up together, can just be powerful. So people aren't usually going to like pinpoint removal your stuff. They're more often than not going to be like, all right, I board wipe. Now you have nothing.
And you're like,
Good
yeah,
luck.
you're right.
Yeah.
I got nothing. All right. We have talked about everything that we possibly can. It is time to upgrade this deck. We've got 10 cards we're going to add. We're going to take 10 cards out. We're going to be using a budget of $50 so you can really invest in this deck and make it the coolest Merfolk deck you possibly can. Of course, we're going to do so after a few words from our sponsors.
Greetings, I am Tivit, Seller of Secrets, and this is my new and improved Seller of Secrets. How did I expand my business so vastly, you ask? Information comes at a price, but I'll give you this clue for free. I use Shopify, the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From their in-person POS system to their e-commerce platform featuring the internet's best converting checkout, Shopify takes the riddles out of retail. And for sellers new and old, Shopify can help you grow with miraculous tools like Shopify Magic. My most treasured secret is their built-in marketing system, which helped me spread word of my mysterious wares. It put my business on the map, which naturally meant I had to change locations. But whether you operate from a cellar or a skyscraper, Shopify can support your success, just like they do with millions of entrepreneurs across 175 countries worldwide. The evidence is clear. Businesses that grow with Shopify.
Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/TCZ, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/TCZ now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/TCZ.
All right, my new deck list is complete. Now, let's see which cards I don't already own and buy them.
Wait, How'd you do that without going through a million boxes?
Oh, I just use ARCHIDEKT. They make it super easy to upload and manage your collection. Then when you're done brewing a deck, you can sort it by collection status to see what you already have.
So this group is just cards you don't own.
Yep, I just click buy this stack, and it takes me right to Card Kingdom.
Whoa.
ARCHIDEKT is the best place to browse, brew, and playtest Commander decks. Just go to archidekt.com/commandzone to get started.
That's ARCHIDEKT.com/commandzone.
Welcome back, everybody. Without further ado?
Yeah. Further adieu?
Adieu?
I never
it
really
must be
thought about
ado.
it. Yeah, further ado. It's got to be ado.
I feel so dumb.
Much ado
All
about
right,
nothing.
wait,
Not
yeah.
much ado about nothing.
It's much ado.
Rachel, I just had that existential crisis for like half a second.
And my brain was like, that doesn't sound.
I'm like, is my entire life a lie?
All right, with some ado. And now we're going to get into the upgrade.
That's true. That was some ado. All right.
We are going to add 10 cards to this. Again, using a budget of $50. What's the first card we're putting in here? Thanks to some reprints.
Yes. So, as previously mentioned, we want to figure out at least something to do with all of these lands. And I think a great include is exploration. Explorations, you may play an additional land on each of your turns.
And it's only $10 right now.
Yeah, I was
don't have an
surprised about this.
exploration by 2. They're awesome.
Yeah, I was going through all these budget upgrades, and I was talking to Rachel about it before this recording. I was like, I really wish we could have an exploration or something, but it's still like $20-25. And Rachel's like,
No, it's not.
it's like $10, right? I'm like, what? You go to Card Kingdom, it's like, oh yeah, it's $10. All right, cool. In it goes.
Come down a long way. And this deck does have like Tatiova in the deck.
Yes.
It does have stuff that cares about putting more lands into play. So having an exploration isn't totally off synergy and just helps you get these cards out of your hand. Put them to work.
Yeah, it's great early. It will get you to the part where you can cast Hakbal and start getting those lands into your hand. And it's great late because you'll probably be gummed up with a lot of lands. And then you can just start playing 2 per turn and actually do something with it and get a commanding board presence.
Love it in this deck. Very excited that we can include it in the upgrade. Again,
So
only $10.
good.
Go shopping.
Yeah. Something else that you can potentially do something with lands is Merfolk Looter.
Love this include.
Yeah. So I was a little bit surprised that Merfolk Looter wasn't already in the deck.
Seems like such a natural fit.
Yeah.
Because you can draw at instant speed. So in between all of your explore triggers, if you see something that you want, you can top it, draw it with the Merfolk Looter, and then continue your explore value without having to top.
Yeah, because that's a surprisingly common scenario that you run into whenever you're doing the Hakbal exploring thing. You're like, all right, cool, I got 4 things I want to explore. And then you're like, explore, all right, into graveyard, explore, land into hand, explore. Oh, but I want that card.
Top.
But I also want to not leave it on top because I want to keep digging for more potential lands or more potential stuff. So what do you do there? Well, if you have something like Merfolk Looter, you can leave it on top, and then with the next Hakbal trigger on the stack, you can activate the Merfolk Looter, draw something, discard potentially one of the extra lands that you have in hand, or anything else, whatever you feel like. And now you have that in your hands, and you can just still keep digging with all your Explore triggers. So it's very handy to have at only 2 mana. It also adds to the Explore triggers because it's a Merfolk in and of itself.
Merfolk itself, and it is only 50 cents.
Yeah.
I love this card in the deck. It is surprising that it isn't in the deck naturally.
Yeah, you can throw some more looters in here, and it'll be great. It'll be lots of fun, but I thought Merfolk Looter especially needed to be in this deck because, oh man, this card's a classic too.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. Next up.
Speaking of looting.
Yeah. Cephalid Colosseum.
I love this card.
Yeah. Now, this is one that is pretty common to higher power like CDH levels, but you don't see it a ton in regular Commander. It taps for a blue and deals a damage to you, but it also has Threshold. You can pay a blue, tap and sacrifice it. Target player draws 3 cards, then discards 3 cards from their hand.
This is awesome. This is instant speed.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy for this deck to hit Threshold because you're constantly binning stuff off the top of your deck. And it comes on a land. It's free. It doesn't take a spell slot from you.
Yeah, and having it be a land is extra good because you can get it into hand from exploring. It's so good.
Any utility, this deck is a great place for Bosejus and Ottawaras.
Yes.
Any land that's also a spell is incredible with Explore.
Now, obviously, those in and of themselves are a little bit out of our
those are
price
very
range,
powerful,
but if you're going further with the deck upgrades, then I think those are excellent includes as well.
Love this. Cephalid Colosseum is at $8 right now, and it is sweet. If you haven't played with it before, it feels good.
That one needs a reprint. I wish they put it in this.
Yeah, that would be cool. It's
That'd be
also
cool.
like cephalids are just like squiddy underwater folk.
Yeah,
Are they
it's pretty on
underwater?
theme.
They're definitely
Cephalids are definitely underwater.
They're water
Yeah.
folk. Yeah.
They're not exactly merfolk. I don't know what the difference between a cephalid and a merfolk is.
They're octopus
Somebody
based.
in the comments, please tell us what the difference between a cephalid and a merfolk is.
They're octofolk.
Octofolk?
Yeah.
What are merfolk then? Fishfolk?
Merfolk. Yeah, they're like fishier.
Anyway.
Depends on what merfolk you're talking about. Oh boy. All right. So we were talking about how this deck really needs and some extra oomph to get over the hump, to be able to push damage through.
Yeah. And this deck, even though we commonly associate merfolk with being blue and having blue cards in it, it also has green. So I was surprised that this didn't include an overrun effect. And the one that we included is Overwhelming Stampede.
A stampede of merfolk. It's like
Because
the
it's
wave is
good.
coming. It's so good. And like sometimes when you're exploring, one guy just keeps hitting and you have like one weirdly tall merfolk.
Like Hakbal.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can be like, all right, so I have Hakbal for a couple turns and then slam an Overwhelming Stampede. And that's just game right there.
Yeah. Gives your merfolk trample,
yeah.
which is pretty fun.
Yeah. It suddenly turns all of those 4/4s that are sitting around into very real threats. Heck, even if it's just +4/+4, and that's the biggest thing that you have
That'll
for
do.
whatever reason, that can kill people.
Absolutely.
And kill one player, maybe two, depending on your board. And so having something like this, I think, is very important in this deck. Again, a little surprised that they didn't already include something like that.
Yeah,
if
some
they
kind
did
of
Overwhelming
overrun.
Stampede, but then had like Merfolk related art, I think that would be cool. They should have done that.
Just a bunch of merfolks in like Crocs running across a pool deck. Squish, 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 squish.
It is a stampede, and it is quite overwhelming.
This next one is an awesome include. Oh, or the Overwhelming Stampede, $3.50. Ton of power.
Yep, ton of power, low cost. This one, ton of power, slightly higher cost.
Yep.
Raise the Palisade. This is
good.
this is such a good card. This is one of the more recent ones from Lord of the Rings sets. Yeah, this one is choose a creature type, return all creatures that aren't of the chosen type to their owner's hands, and it's 4 and a blue. Yeah. Now this one's $15, so it's a little bit more on the expensive side, but wow, does this card do everything you want at any point in the game. Are you behind and you just need everybody else's board to go away? Play this card. It'll
Yep.
do that. Do you have a commanding board presence and you just need to clear some blockers so that you can get some damage in? Play this card. It'll do the thing that you need it to. Like, it's
Merfolk
nuts.
Are also really dependent on combat damage triggers.
Yes.
There's a lot of merfolk that really need to connect to do their thing. But you can get a huge amount of value if you connect. So if you can cast this board wipe and like trigger a couple of your, like whenever a merfolk deals a combat damage, draw a card, or whenever a merfolk deals combat damage, you draw and discard. Like all of those, or just to give yourself a free like Kindred Discovery attack.
Yeah.
This card is going to put in so much work to set your opponents back enough that you can close out some damage.
Yeah. No matter what, as long as you have this in your hand, you will be a happy camper.
Yep, $15 for Raise the Palisade, but if you're playing blue and you're playing a creature type focused deck, this card is one of the best includes
just
that
pick it
they've
up
printed
and-
lately.
It's so
it's
good.
really, really powerful. I think it must have been in
It's
the
like
elf deck,
Kindred
right?
Dominance, but for like 2 mana less.
Yeah,
like
for
crazy.
for 4 and a blue.
Nuts. Next
wild.
up, Tempest Caller. 50 cents. This is 4 mana merfolk that when it enters the battlefield, tap all creatures target player controls.
Similar thing to Raise the Palisade, where you're just trying to open up
Yes.
an attack. Like if you have players that have islands and you're like, I'm going to be able to hit them later, but there's one player you just can't punch through on, Tempest Caller is a godsend.
Yes. And like you said, oftentimes you will just need to be like, well, I just need to get a little bit of damage through on this, so hopefully I can set up my engine. This card will do that. And you don't feel like you're throwing away as big of a card as like Raise the Palisade, for example.
Right.
But also you can use it as an alpha strike. Almost every commander game that you play, there is a clear threat. There's a clear somebody that's in the lead. And so if you have a decent board, slam this thing down, you will be able to get that damage in that you need.
Yeah.
And again, less exciting, but it's only 50 cents. And
it's a merfolk.
It's a merfolk.
from
So
Ixalan.
perfect.
At least this version is.
Yeah.
All right, we mentioned that this deck is a little bit low on interaction. We've added a board wipe to make sure that you can answer your opponent's threats, but having a little bit more interaction to make sure that you can protect your board from your opponent's board wipes, or you can, just protect key pieces is really, really important here. And this first one is a very fun little techie card.
Yeah. So again, I was looking at things. I'm like, well, I could say Put Counterspell in the deck.
You could.
Put Swan Song in the deck.
And it would be good.
And it would be good.
Swan Song would blow your budget, but...
Okay, offer you can't
Counterspell
refuse.
There
you go.
fun.
Yeah. But that's not very exciting. We are here to play cool cards and to play fun cards. Granted, I really like Offer You Can't Refuse. I think that's a fun card.
It's
But
a really good one.
the card that we included here is Abjure. It's blue mana, 1 blue mana. You sacrifice a blue permanent to counter target spell.
1 mana?
1 mana.
1 mana.
Yeah. So with Merfolk, again, the Merfolk in and of themselves are not super powerful cards for the most part. There's some that are valuable, but you will oftentimes have a lot of disposable Merfolk. And most of the Merfolk in this deck specifically, and just in general, are blue permanents. I think, I went through this, and I believe it's only 5 green Merfolk, mono green Merfolk in the deck. So most of your permanents are going to be blue. They're things that will make blue permanents.
Yep.
Like token permanents. Like that. What's that one that's whenever you cast a Merfolk, make a 1/1 Merfolk with hexproof?
Yeah, it's a new... Oh, no, that one's not new. That one's Marrow something.
Yeah.
I know what it is. It's awesome. It's one of the best cards in the Kumano deck. I'm so bad with card names. It's unbelievable.
I used to pride myself so much in knowing every single card name, but the amount of cards that have come out.
Deep Root Waters.
Deep Root Waters.
Yeah.
There we go.
There's a new one in Lost Caverns of Ixalan that also makes token Merfolk.
Oh, that one's so good.
And it's really, really powerful. Should probably go in this deck. We can't include them in our upgrades because it doesn't currently have a price.
Yeah.
So they don't usually go in the upgrades. But it's very good.
It's kind of a given across the board that if there's a cool card in the main set that you like for these commander sets,
in this one, it's
just put it in.
Yeah. There's
no one's stopping you.
If you're really into the Explorer side of it, pick up some of the Explorer Merfolk from the main set. Put them in this Precon. There's some really, really cool cards, and there's not many. There's only like 2 main set cards in this deck, I think.
Yeah, there's only a few, and I think we're taking one of them out. Spoiler alert. But anyway, Abjura, great card.
Yeah,
love that. Super spicy hot tech for y'all. Next up, also, we want to protect our stuff. Vodalian Hexcatcher.
Abjure only $1. Vodalian.
I keep not saying the prices.
I
Thanks, Rachel.
make that mistake
Appreciate you.
all the time. Vodalian Hexcatcher is at $2.50 and does it all for you in this deck.
So it's 1 in a blue, and it's got flash. Other Merfolk you control get +1/+1. All right, we're adding a Lord to the board. See what I did there?
Yeah.
But most importantly, thank you. You can sacrifice a Merfolk to counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1. Now, this card, you might think, oh, well, non-creature mana tithe, not that powerful. But 1, it's at flash speed, and so they don't know about it for the first time. But 2, even once it's on the board, this will still deter a lot of things.
So annoying to play around.
Right? Because if your opponent has a board wipe and they don't have enough mana to pay for literally every single one of the Merfolk that you have on the board, they're probably not going to cast it. That's just what's going to happen. Unless, for example, you have like a pretty commanding board state and you're about to win, they'll do all they can to get rid of some of your pieces. But aside from that, it is a great deterrent even once it sticks on the board.
Yep.
It's like most of the board wipes are non-creature, so it'll just hit lots of great stuff.
Even like your opponents can't tap out for a Bolas's Citadel. They can't tap out for these big permanents that we play in Commander all the time, where it's just like, I'm going to slam this really powerful like spell enchantment, like a 1,000-Year Storm or something like that.
Yes.
And if they need at least 3 more mana in order for it to resolve, because you're just like, oh, I'll sacrifice 2 Merfolk and counter your big play.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge tempo swing.
Just the potential of being able to mana leak any non-creature your opponents play. Like you said, it doesn't have to be a board wipe. It can be any non-creature spell. Crazy.
Yeah. Makes them do the math. And when your opponents are doing math, you're winning.
Is that why math is for blockers? Because then that means you're winning because you're attacking?
You keep them busy.
I see. Okay.
So if they get all tangled up in there.
Yeah. Again, these are the interaction pieces, and if you want to go further with it, you can add more interaction pieces because, again, it's kind of low, but these were just ones that we thought were really good includes for this.
$2.50 too. Love it so much.
Yep.
This next one's a new one. It was from, I believe it's from the Slivers Precon?
It is from the Slivers Precon. And I saw this card in play, and I was like, that card is just really good.
Especially with the high density that this deck has.
Yeah, we're talking about For the Ancestors. Now, this one is 2 and a green for an instant. Choose a creature type, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal any number of them with the chosen type, put them into your hand, rest on the bottom of your library, and flashback for 3 and a green. So I really like this one. I know this deck has plenty of card draw. There's lots of card draw on this, but I could always use more.
Especially instant speed card draw.
Yes, instant speed card draw is great because, like we said, being able to interrupt one of those possible explore triggers to get something that you want is just very, very helpful. This deck already has such a high amount of Merfolk. You're probably going to hit something, probably multiple things.
Yeah, you already know what's on top. You're going to hit something.
Yeah, it makes sure that your card draw is gas. Like, you are getting things that are good.
Yeah, if you can draw 2 cards off of this, you're like, good enough. If you can draw 3 cards off of this, you are great. 3 mana for 3 cards feels good every time. And the fact that you can cast it as an instant and as a flash, you can cast it as an instant regularly, but then also flash it back later is awesome, especially in a deck that is going to have a ton of lands.
Yeah.
Like you do, and your Merfolk are cheap. You want to make sure that you're spending all of the mana you have. So being a little bit more flexible about your card draw here is really nice.
And it's also not something that you're feeling bad about binning from an explore trigger.
Yeah.
You just stick it in the graveyard.
Flashback.
You got that flashback. You can still get the value out of it without having to be like, oh man, well, I guess I have to leave that on top and now I don't get any more lands into my hand. No, just keep digging. It's fine. It's there for you when you need it.
$3.50. We love this card in this deck. I think it's a really neat ad.
Yep.
This next one, all right. This next one is a neat ad. Mechanically.
It's so cool.
It's so good.
It's so good.
But I understand if you hate it. It's Danny Pink. It's
From the Doctor Who set.
Yeah, it's just a teacher. It's 3 and a blue for Human Soldier Advisor. He's a legendary with Mentor. It says creatures you control have whenever 1 or more counters are put on this creature for the first time each turn, draw a card.
That's crazy with Hakbal's ability.
That means every time you explore, you're drawing.
Yeah.
Basically.
If you're putting a counter on something, then you're drawing.
Yeah.
If you get a land,
then you're drawing.
You're drawing that land. So no matter what you do, you're drawing. It's crazy.
It's so powerful, but it is a real flavor fail. But like, the fact that this card just says, like, it makes your commander say every Merfolk you control has draw a card on the beginning of your combat. It's just like really powerful.
So good.
So I love Danny in this deck. I think you should put him in there, but I understand if you are uncomfortable putting a human man in your...
We hate human men.
So, well, when you're hanging out with all these cool fish guys, you're like, what are you doing here, Danny?
Yeah, so we like this as an upgrade, but if you are thinking, okay, well, maybe I don't want a Universes Beyond man from Doctor Who
I get it.
in my Merfolk deck.
Totally.
How about this instead?
Yeah, this card's good too.
Bred for the Hunts. So this is an alternate as a just in case for the 10. So 1 a green and a blue. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Again, very, very powerful draw effect. It's only 3 mana. Comes down the turn before Hakbal, assuming it's in your opening hand, or you draw it early. And as long as you can get some damage in, like, it'll just keep fueling itself.
Merfolk on 1 or 2, this on 3, your commander on 4.
That's a great curve.
You're going to draw right away, and you're set up. And you're set up by turn 4.
Yeah.
And things are beginning. And you didn't even have to ramp for that. You didn't miss a single beat.
Yeah.
I like Bred for the Hunt in this deck a lot. It's a little bit more on flavor than Danny is, but they fill a similar slot, which is draw a ton of cards.
Man, that's the thing that's so disappointing about some of these Universes Bound is, like, I really like this card, like, mechanically. I think that's such a cool thing.
You could just draw some feathers on his head, you know? Just have him altered.
But that's also not how it is in Doctor Who. Yeah. So I get it. Like, I do like Doctor Who quite a bit, but at the same time, I totally understand the... I don't know about putting that in my Merfolk deck.
Yeah, Danny is $5, so it's a little bit spendier than Bred for the Hunt, which is only 50 cents as well. So if you want to save a couple of bucks and protect your Merfolk zone from a human Doctor Whovian Danny Pink, we get it.
Yeah, so that's 10 upgrades in kind of 11.
10 and a half.
10 and a half if you want to include Bred for the Hunt. But...
And I think this is the first time this has happened. Mm-hmm. And you've clearly worked very hard on it. Because your total budget with the 10 cards, including Danny, not Bred for the Hunt, is exactly $50.
Exactly $50. I did a lot of moving pieces around to make this work. You tell me my limit is $50, we're going to use every single bit of that.
Maximized the budget here. So you know that if you're picking up all of these cards, you have done it. You have done really, really squeaked as much power as you can out of this deck for only $50 upgrade. Sweet. I love these ads. I think they really do shore up some of the issues that we talked about and issues that I've run into with my Merfolk decks. That being said, we have added 10 cards. We've added 10 and a half cards. We do have to take 10 out to make room. So we're going to start by cutting the card we've alluded to already. Thassa, God of the Sea, you're sweet. Put her in another deck. She's not super good here.
Yep. For reasons we have already mentioned.
Yeah.
But moving on to these other cards, honestly, this was probably the hardest deck upgrade that I've had to do as far as pulling things out.
Yeah.
Because it's
all
so
of these Ixalan decks are quite tight.
Yeah, so please don't get upset that you're like, oh, well, that's such a good card. Why are you taking it out? They're pretty much all good cards.
Yeah.
They're all really good cards.
The deck is super, super playable as it is. Everything that we're cutting, we're just thinning like the numbers of this, the numbers of that, or just trying to make the deck a little bit more efficient.
Again, these are recommendations, not you absolutely have to do this.
Yeah.
That being said, Commander Sphere. Sorry, Rachel.
Great show.
Great show. May it rest in peace.
Commander Sphere is weird in this deck.
Yeah.
Merfolk are cheap. You don't want to cast a Merfolk on 2 and then a Rock on 3. You don't need that much ramp. All of your creatures are 2 and 3 drops. I don't think Commander Sphere quite makes the cut here.
Yeah.
That being said, Commander Sphere is sweet if you're playing an artifact deck and you can like loop the thing. Great.
Commander Sphere is a cool card. Perfect. This deck just does not really want it.
Weird here. Get it out.
This deck doesn't really care that much about ramp anyway.
Or like colors. Like the Commander Sphere is good when you can fix a lot. This is fine. You don't need it.
Yeah. For much the same reason, Temple of the False God. We decided to cut because we already put in a land, Cephalid Coliseum, so that is our cheat for an excuse for taking out Temple of the False God. But Temple of the False God, I feel, works a lot better in ramp decks. But the way that Wizards keeps putting it in commander decks feels like they think that it works as like an alternative to ramp instead of working with ramp.
I would consider it a ramp piece. Like we include it when we count our lands in like when we do stats, which it's weird. That is 36 lands in this thing, and they included a Temple of the False God.
Sure.
36 is a low count to include Temple of the False God.
Yep.
I don't start looking at including Temple until I'm at like 38, 39. You're going to be drawing a lot of lands in this deck, but you're not necessarily doing a lot of land ramp, and your cards have a really high devotion. A lot of Merfolk are blue-blue or blue-green.
Yeah.
Colorless lands are a cost, and I don't think Temple of the False God is worth the cost in this deck.
Yeah, and your curve is quite low. So what you're looking to do is you're trying to get to that early setup and then continue to just play Merfolk from then on out. And Temple of the False God doesn't really help you with that.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, so...
Cut it.
It's gone. All right. Next up, Curse of the Swine. So this is the X-blue exile creatures and make 2/2 pigs in their place. Boars, excuse me. Yes. Very big difference. It's a pig on the art.
The boar.
It's swine. Anyway, pigs are way cuter anyway.
This is a fine removal spell. The thing about this is you want to be more like quick with Merfolk. Merfolk are kind of flashy. They're cheap. You don't want to spend your whole turn removing a bunch of things and giving them all these blockers.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything that your deck wants to do. You want to remove blockers. That is the point of like all these tap downs / bounce things back to hand. Is
don't
you want
give them free blockers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like Curse of the Swine in this deck. 2/2s block most of your Merfolk comfortably, like until you really get your engine moving.
Granted,
And
it can still be okay in a pinch. It's just so counterintuitive to what the rest of the deck feels like it wants to do.
Yeah. There's better removal. Just sleep their whole board is so much more powerful than giving them a bunch of 2/2s that can now just chump your big attack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed. All right.
This next one is a big old Merfolk. It's Prime Speaker Zagana. 2 green, blue for a Merfolk wizard. She enters with +1/+1 counters where X is the greatest power among other creatures you control. And then when she enters the battlefield, draw cards equal to her power. The weird thing about this card is this is a go wide deck, not a go tall deck. So you're going to pay 6 mana and draw like 4 cards.
I mean, as we mentioned, there are times where you will have like one
big
Merfolk
thing?
that's just pretty big, but I don't know. I
You
think
have to already be doing the thing.
Yeah.
And that moment, you don't need 10 cards or something like that. You need ways to punch through. I just don't want to be paying 6 mana for a single Merfolk that's only good if I'm already set up.
Yeah, I think that's mostly it, right? Like, it's a good enough card, maybe, for most scenarios, but it's not good enough in this deck because we don't want to be paying 6 mana just to play this. We would rather be playing multiple Merfolk. 3 mana and then another 3 mana Merfolk is way better for this deck's plan than just one Prime Speaker Zagana. Now, Prime Speaker can help you get more Merfolk into hand, but it just doesn't feel great with what it does.
Yeah, I just don't love it in this deck. I think it's kind of bizarre in Merfolk decks overall. Counter decks, Voltron decks, great, go nuts.
Or you could say, I'm not following any of your advice. I'm going to run this as the commander.
Okay.
You can do whatever you want.
I believe in you.
Next up, Commit to Memory. This is the one that is return a spell to its owner's hands.
Commit is a 4 mana instant that can either bounce a spell, so it's like a remand, or it can bounce a non-land permanent. Super flexible, very expensive. And then once it's in your graveyard, you can pay 6 mana for Memory that shuffles your graveyard into your deck and you draw 7.
Yeah.
Everybody does. Really good in Wheels decks, really good if you're not particularly using your graveyard. And this it kind of is, which is weird. Like, it has a couple of flashback cards. It has there's a Merfolk that gives all your Merfolk retrace. It's like, my graveyard's fine.
I think it is used for specifically the Aftermath part.
Yeah.
Because, like, it is low on interaction to start out with. And so they were probably like, well, let's include something that has interaction as well as is able to do something in the graveyard.
It's cute because you can bin it.
Yeah. And then you can just
cast
Aftermath it when you need it.
Yeah.
That being said, it's just very expensive for what it does. And we're trying to lower the curve and make it so that you don't have like these big expensive spells that are just stuck in your hand. And this is one that probably will be if it ever gets to your hand. So
yeah. I will say I really like Commit to Memory. I think that 4 mana interaction piece is actually quite powerful and it answers just about everything that you need it to answer.
Yeah.
So I generally like Commit to Memory a lot. But yeah, it is a little bit clunky in a deck that wants to be a little lighter on its feet.
Yeah, you're spilling out your hand and then you want to leave up like a little bit of mana, not 4 mana if you can help it.
I mean, this cut is the one that I struggle with the most. So because I do think that this card does answer a lot of things and is good when you're behind.
But again, a lot of the cards in this deck are very good. Good cards have to get cut to make way for even better cards.
That's the problem.
Yep.
We got to tighten things up a little bit.
Man, that's the worst part about deck building.
I know.
It's like,
it's
I gotta
so
cut
hard.
some cards. I want to add all these things, but nothing to cut.
All right. Up next is Vorel of the Hulklade. This is another potential commander. It's 1 green and a blue for a human Merfolk. Interesting. Has an activated ability that says green and a blue, double the number of each kind of counter on target artifact, creature, or land.
Yeah, so
a little bit more in the counter direction, a little bit less in the Murph direction.
Yeah. It doesn't go much in my direction.
Yeah. I don't know. This card used to be pretty good, and it's just not quite as good as it used to be. It's better in like a dedicated counter deck. Like I would run this in a charge counter deck or in like I'm doing stuff with lands counters. Like it's very good in the Salamander deck. I think.
Doubling one thing is just not exactly what this deck wants to be doing.
Yeah.
It wants to be going wide and then buffing everything up about the same amount if it can help it. So yeah, it also the 3-drop slot, we haven't really talked about curve that much, but the 3-drop slot is pretty glutted.
Yeah.
In this, there's a lot of 3-drops in here. And so I think just removing a few of them to make room for some things that are just a little bit more efficient, hit your curve a little bit better is helpful.
Speaking of 3-drops, this next one is from the main set. It's Merfolk Cave Diver. It's 2 and a blue for a Merfolk Scout. Whenever a creature you control explores, Merfolk Cave Diver gets +1/+0 until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. It is naturally a 2/4.
Yeah, another card that I like, but at 3 mana, and I don't know. You just have to be doing the explore thing. And if you're already doing the exploring thing, then you're already in business. Like, this doesn't really help you with that. Like, I'd rather have something that like gives island walk or pumps everything.
Yeah, I mean,
Lord, maybe.
We've mentioned it before. Like, this deck wants to go wide and this card wants to go tall. It's a very aggressive card. I think it's pretty good in the deck. If you don't want to spend $8 on a Cephaloid Coliseum or something like that, I could see leaving this card in.
Yeah.
But we have better 3-drops in the deck.
Yep.
Speaking of heartbreaking cuts, it's Xolatoyac, the Smiling Flood.
Sorry, everybody.
Look at his face, Murph. Look at his face.
I don't want to make him sad.
You tell him to his face you're cutting him from this deck.
I don't think I can, Rachel. I don't.
Yeah,
think
he's
I can.
just kind of not that great he's more of a defensive piece. In his own deck, really powerful, really sweet, but otherwise, he just sort of gives all your Merfolk vigilance.
Yeah, which we don't care about that much. Like, it's nice, but for
Untaps
6
a couple
mana,
of your lands.
yeah, it's a little bit much for the amount of things that it does.
If I'm paying 6 mana, I want to make sure that I have really, like, that is going to win me the game. That is going to turn the corner for me. And this doesn't quite have this synergy to do that in this deck.
Yeah, it's not great. All right, and then the last one is Coral Helm Commander. This is the level up Merfolk.
Yeah. So this card is blue, and it's a 2/2, and then you level up for 1. You have to pay 1 twice to make it a 3/3 flyer, and then you have to pay 1 2 more times to turn it into a Merfolk Lord. So at that point, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 6 mana.
Yeah, at sorcery speed. Granted, you can do it over multiple turns and just whatever extra mana you have. But that's still not very good.
We've added a much better Lord, and this isn't just not how you want to be spending your mana. It's a decent mana sink, but a 2 mana 2/2 that's like just not doing the work is not as good as some of the other Merfolk that we have.
Yep.
Okay, that's the 10. We've done it. We're going to go cry a little bit in the corner.
For our salamander boy.
No. Xolatoyac.
No.
I'm pretty sure that's how you say your name.
He doesn't care. He just continues riding on the waves with a smile.
That's it. He's just a surfer guy.
He's a surfer dude.
He's chill. He's like, yeah, I didn't want to go to war anyway.
I'm fine sitting on the sidelines, bro.
Totally fine.
Yeah, totally fine.
Yeah,
dude.
I'll watch. Have fun. You do you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we've added 10 cards. We've taken 10 cards out. This deck is as tight synergistically as we can make it with a $50 budget. That being said, how does the deck play out now?
Yeah, so the deck really wants to, we talked about this a little bit, but it doesn't really care that much about ramping. It cares more about getting a Merfolk down early, which is pretty, like, counter to the way that most decks operate. If you can get, like, a 2-mana ramp piece, like an Explorer or something, that still helps.
Yeah.
But if you have a Merfolk in play before your commander comes out, that really helps a lot, because then you're exploring twice, you're making sure that you're continuing to hit those land drops, and then you can just kind of go from there. And like from that point on, then the plan is pretty simple. Just play whatever Merfolk you draw into and try to hold up interaction to keep those Merfolk around if you can, up until you can do an Alpha Strike.
Use that evasion, lean on your counters. When in doubt, I think like topping stuff repeatedly just to put counters on all your stuff isn't a terrible idea. And making sure you're not, of course, overcommitting to the board until you have the interaction to protect what you're doing. Sometimes you just need to go for it, but in this deck, you have to be really, really careful, because there'll be a board wipe and you'll have 7 cards in hand, but they're all lands.
I think that's the tricky part. You need to figure out through playing the deck to figure out where can I get to where I am not quite to scary point.
Right.
And people are now paying attention to me. You want to be right underneath that for the most part until you can actually start getting those things that start to end games, like the Overwhelming Stampede.
It's tricky when you're making all these game actions. Like, I think there's honestly some strategy to being like, I'm just going to top, put counters on all these and pass. Because then you're not taking up a huge amount of time. And that means your opponents aren't looking at you like, well, You just drew like 4 cards and you're like, they're all lands.
Yeah.
You just don't want to attract that kind of attention because the deck just can't handle it.
Yeah.
You have a lot of card advantage, you have a lot of creatures, but you can't take like a full focused attack from the table. So you do have to be a little sneaky.
Yeah. But like you said,
Have to
Hakbal
do.
doing its thing and taking up so many game actions is very hard to be sneaky.
It's really hard to ignore. So keep an eye on just how much time you're taking up. Keep an eye on your decision making.
Yep.
If it's like close to optimal, just do it. Just be done.
That is also something that will come more with practice, right?
Right.
The more you play the deck, the more you know, don't want that. Oh, don't want that in this situation.
Yeah.
And you can just make those snap quick decisions. And if you can do that faster, then it won't seem like you're as much of a threat. That's something we should do a podcast on.
Oh, yeah? Not being the threat?
Not being the threat.
For sure.
Yeah. Because
No,
that's super interesting.
It's a huge part of Commander these days is being in second place.
Yeah. Or third place. Being in second or third place, I think third place is probably the most comfortable position in a Commander game.
Absolutely.
I
Because
find.
then you're firmly on the team.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, yeah. Anything we can do to bring them down.
Let's
You're like,
go.
Yeah.
100%.
Totally.
Yeah.
Also me. That is an episode for another day, though. To the listeners, what do you think of this Precon? Are there any cards we missed? Any cards we suggested to take out or add that you disagree with? I know his face. He's so cute.
You can disagree. It's fine.
That's fine.
It's fine.
It's your deck. We believe in you.
Yeah.
You have the power to build your own deck. And you could play this deck right out of the box, and I think you'd find that it plays just fine. But these are the upgrades that you can make to really ratchet up the power and make sure you can close out a game and get that big dub.
Big dub.
We talked about a lot of Magic cards today. You can pick up all of those while supporting the show at cardkingdom.com/command. Card Kingdom has a huge selection of Magic cards, including all of the new singles and sealed product from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Order at this point. These decks, they're awesome. The value is really good, and
So
they
good.
play really well out of the box. And you can get those while supporting the show without spending any extra money if you do so at cardkingdom.com/command. Bookmark it.
Yep. And if you go to ultrapro.com/command, you can get all of the Merfolk themed things that you can possibly want. You can get maybe some blue Ultra Pro dice. Maybe you can get a Merfolk themed playmat, some Merfolk themed sleeves, some art from the sets, whatever you want. You can find it. Wall scrolls, whatever it might be. Just ultrapro.com/command. They got sales on there all the time, even if you're not really looking for something in particular and you buy something that's nice, that's up to 50% off, perhaps.
Yeah.
That can happen sometimes during these flash sales. Bookmark it if you can, ultrapro.com/command.
Lots of cool stuff on there, and you can do so while supporting the show.
Woo.
So thank you for doing it.
Yeah.
All right, we've talked about a lot of Magic. Let's take a couple of minutes to talk about something outside the world of Wizards of the Coast. What are you enjoying right now? What are you working on?
Yeah. So sorry, everyone. I don't really have any
No
props,
show and tell.
no show and tell to come with this one. But that's because I've been playing Spider-Man 2 on the PS5.
It's new, right?
It is, well, new as of the recording of this. It's came out last Friday, so it came out about 4 or 5 days ago. I beat it. I haven't 100%ed it. I don't know if I'm going to. But one thing that I really enjoy about these Insomniac Spider games, do you know much about these at all?
No.
They are lots of fun to just move around, which I think is a huge key part of games.
That's what I like doing in video games. Just walking around.
Walking around. But it's not just walking around, you're swinging around. And it feels good. It feels so good. So much so that they made like this fast travel system.
Okay.
So you can go anywhere on the map. It loads in 1.5 seconds.
That's awesome.
But I never use it because it's just
just
way
want-
more fun to swing there instead. So I really like Insomniac's approach to just world design and their ability to create this living, breathing world that is fun to be in, which I think is missing from a lot of games. Like, the point of a game is to be fun. And if you're not having fun, why are you playing the game?
Yeah, having fun while traveling in a game is such a huge win for them because that's such a small thing in the grand scope of game design, but it pays off huge when you're playing.
Yeah, just like, it's not getting from point A to point B. Now that's a chore. It's getting from point A to point B is probably the most fun I'll have in the game.
Yeah.
Which that turns the entire thing on its head. And Insomniac also does a great job with their storytelling. Like they've crafted this narrative with like Peter Parker, Miles Morales, and just a bunch of Spider-Man villains all together. And it's just a ton of fun. Story's got a lot of heart. So I've really been enjoying basically everything that they've been able to do over there. And also it looks really nice. I like pretty new games. What can I say?
Spider-Man. Yeah, it's
I like old
Spider-Man.
games sometimes, but I also like brand new games
Ones
sometimes.
that work and like look right.
Yeah.
And you're like, look at that.
Fun fact. I haven't encountered this myself, but it's been going around on the internet.
Yeah.
You can be, sometimes if you select a new suit, and the new suit won't load, and it just defaults to a regular old Blender cube.
Okay.
So you're a white cube swinging around. And so they'll probably patched
almost works.
by the time this has come out. But it's very funny to watch. There's videos of it on YouTube that you can watch.
That feels very like Kirby or something.
Yeah, just wee.
All right. Well, before we go, we're going to say a big thank you to everyone here at the Command Zone for making this and all of our episodes possible. Thank you to Damon Lentz, Eric Lem, Megan Yip, Gaurav Galati, Jordan Pridgeon, Jamie Block, Arthur Meadowcroft, Manson Lung, Jake Boss, Sam Waldo, Evan Limburger, Katie Cole, Mitch Trafford, Josh Lee Kwai, Jimmy Wong, and of course to Josh Murphy for Murphing it up with me today.
The Merfolk.
Murphing it around with a Murph.
Yeah, we're Murphing it up in here.
Appreciate you taking the time. It's always fun to have you.
Thanks.
And thank you for watching. We hope you enjoy this deck and all of the decks from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @Josh Lee Kwai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.
Farewell. I'll read us saying adieu.
Adieu.
Adieu. Adieu. Or something. One of the
Yeah, adieu or adieu.
My brain just went.
Leave that in, please.
It's the
You can leave that in, editors. It's fine.